I don't think it's
I
that
mean,
bad.
despite, wow, that was powerful.
Is that a seal? What seal is in the background? Oh my gosh.
Oh my.
I even turned and like blocked. Oh, yeah, that was not getting hit.
Wow. What is that, the Kraken goal horn? Just hear its burp. Just hear its burp.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 49 of Beers in the Lot. This week, we got into the Seattle Kraken expansion draft. We took a look at some of the UFA chaos that's being caused by that draft and the NHL entry draft happening later in the week. And then we had a little discussion about, does better equipment make a player better? All right. Let's release the beer Krakens.
Yeah. Dang. That's a furious crack.
Yeah, went everywhere too.
Some
Curious.
Some would say that's 2 drafts in a week type of crack. Like the crack.
Oh.
Hiya. Aaron, what are you drinking?
I have a Moosehead Radler
Ooh.
because it's how I do.
Right?
What vintage?
What you got, Johnny?
Yeah,
What
vintage. What
This is
vintage
new. This
Yeah,
is
what
new. I'll
vintage is
have you
that?
know. I got some new
That
ones.
is-
He got it from the cellar.
Yeah.
What you drinking, Johnny?
I have from Victory Brewing Cloudwalker Hazy Juicy IPA. So, little light IPA for a delightful, humid summer evening in Maryland. So, yeah. Riggs, what do you got this evening?
I have from Rockwell Brewery in Frederick, Maryland, Down Under Pilsner. It's made with an
Oh.
assortment of New Zealand and Aussie hops. Well, basically 2 varieties, but yeah. Yeah,
Fermented kangaroo shit.
from the land of Oz. Yeah.
Oop, put another shrimp on the barbie. I had to. Dumb and Dumber. Come on, man. Dumb and Dumber.
And I think I spied a Treehouse can from Daniel.
Oh, yes, you did. Oh, yes, you did. I went back to the cellar as well. So I'm drinking a King Julius tonight, not to be confused with Julius with 3 J's and 3 S's.
Julius.
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 Yeah.
Judas.
And it's good.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
See you next week.
We always make that joke. We have.
I know.
to.
It's kind of it's on brand at this point.
So do we break out here and just, announce their Maple Leafs pick?
You know what though? Like so as a dork who does like the, on Cap Friendly, you can select your Kraken, and I'm like even more of a psychopath. Like I'll look and see where they could save money in certain spots. I did have from the Leafs. I did too because I'm such a loser. I had Alex Kerfoot on one, and I had Travis Dermott on another. So I was almost. I think he's very underutilized, Travis Dermott. But anyway, I think that's a decent pick.
And also, even though Kevin Weeks mistakenly pulled the Alex Kerfoot card out of the fish that they were throwing around at the market in Seattle, either as rehearsal or they were taping it today and it leaked on the Twitters, Seattle should and probably will take McCann. That's why Toronto picked up McCann from Pittsburgh. End of story.
Yeah, and I think McCann's good, but like, I don't know. I think him, as a Pittsburgh fan, he's a shooting threat. He can play center or wing. He is very useful. I like him. I was sad to see him go. I understand why they traded him, though. It's a little bit of cap relief, and also, too, it's one extra guy that you would probably keep where you don't have to protect, so at least they get some goods back. But, meh. Kind of
Why did Pittsburgh protect Jeff Carter?
I was
That is a
wondering
really
that.
good question.
I have to ask you guys this
'Cause
because when
He
I
doesn't
saw
have
he
any
has
that,
a
kind of
move.
contract
He
things,
has
right?
he has a modified trade clause, so he had to waive it, but he also has term. So I think Pittsburgh kind of is thinking if they're going to keep Sid and let's say Gino for the next year, Carter will probably do you more good for another year. And then if you need to, let's say, retool because you're getting rid of other franchise pieces, Carter could be a good throw in. But my only issue with Jeff Carter is he, for the longest time, did not move his trade clause out of LA. He wanted to stay there. He was supposed to move like a trade deadline or two ago, and he just nixed it. He's like, I'm not moving. So maybe that's it. And he did waive it to go to Pittsburgh because I guess he thought he had a shot, which is cool. But perfect world, McCann gets protected over Carter, but it is what it is. Whatever. I wasn't.
and
Friendly
bad.
says he doesn't have any clauses.
He has something, I'm sure. Or
Yeah.
maybe it was the previous
I didn't
years
think he
and
had
it's
that.
not kicked in.
Because that contract is from the Flyers.
Well, yeah. Flyers to Columbus to LA to Pittsburgh.
And it expires next year. So he's got 1 year left.
How long
But-
was the contract?
A long one. It was 2011 through 2022. So it was
Wow.
11 years worth 58 million.
Wow.
But it doesn't say there's any clauses on it. I don't know. But there is retained salary somewhere along the line. I don't know who's paying for it, but somebody's still paying him.
riddle me this: why did they protect Matheson and not Pedersen?
I have my own theory to that.
Go ahead.
I think what's the point of having him there knowing that Ronnie Franchise wasn't going to get him anyway? Pedersen is the better value. Matheson. I think Ronnie Franchise wouldn't get Matheson.
Matheson has a no trade clause.
He would have had to move it. Yeah.
But now they're going to get nothing for Pedersen. Pedersen's going to Seattle.
Which is why I think they flipped McCann when they could. They got essentially what they traded for Kapanen back. So that's why I think there were a few other minor moves that moved, like guys that moved. And I think it's because teams are like Ryan Graves, for example, from Colorado, why he got traded to Jersey is because they had a feeling, maybe an inside hunch or something, that he was going to get taken by the Kraken, which he's not a bad player, whatever. He took a few bad penalties in the Vegas series, so meh, he's young, whatever. They kind of thought maybe he would be taken, and they would rather get something back for him than lose him for nothing. But some teams, I think, are fine. They're like, I'm kind of glad you could take this guy. Like, please take him. Like maybe Montreal, Carey Price. So
Funny thing with Matheson's contract, though.
Hmm.
His contract was signed in 2018 and it goes through 2026. His modified no trade clause of an 8-team no trade team, it kicks in now. It kicks in between 21 and 22.
yeah, so he probably had to
he
waive it.
didn't have a no trade clause for the first 3 years. Or he waived it. He possibly waived it. Yeah. I guess
Yeah.
that's possible. But it kicks in now, according to Cap Friendly. So is it not possible that he was thinking, I don't want to go to Seattle? And he said, I don't know if it was reasonable for him to predict in 2018 that Seattle's draft would be this year or whatnot, but maybe he didn't want to go to Seattle and orchestrated his contract as such.
Well,
Maybe that's a possibility.
or what I think maybe the latter of that is before it kicked in, maybe Florida's like, hey, we want to move you. We're reshuffling the deck here because they did buy out Keith Yandel this week. Matheson got moved last offseason. So maybe they went to him and said, hey, we're definitely going to shake the makeup, in the next couple of years of this team. You have a no trade clause that comes in. We're willing to move you this year before it fully kicks in. Is that acceptable? And boom, they did it. And that was also a Jim Rutherford move. So that's the other thing too. It's a GMJR move. So
True.
Is anybody else looking at like any Seattle mock drafts and kind of looking at what the Knights did and kind of looking at Seattle like they're going to be very underwhelming for the first season.
But I actually think they kind of want that though.
Like, what kind of interesting names do you think they could get?
Yanni Gord.
Well, I mean, Yanni
You think
Gord.
they're gonna get him?
I think either you get Palat or Gord from Tampa. That's a steal. Either of those guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in terms
Shit,
of the goalie
even
market,
Killorn.
yeah, Killorn. And he'll be on long-term IR all of next year and come back in the playoffs. So, but so it looks like they're gonna get Drieger, obviously from Florida, which is smart. The Carey Price thing, I'm very curious about it for two reasons. His wife is from Washington.
Right. He's spent all of his junior career in Washington
BC.
State. Well, he
And
grew
in
up.
Washington
He's
State,
he's from
Exactly.
Grew up
Vancouver,
in
but
BC. Yeah.
all of his like junior hockey days were in Washington. So like he
Yeah.
like he's from out there. Like that. So it makes sense. Like, yeah, go home
Yeah.
and play or whatever. But the biggest thing with that is like the contract is just so big. And do you really want to do that
It is,
deal
but
He's worth it.
right off the
but
bat?
it's Carey Price. I mean,
Now-
I don't know.
Going back to Danny, your thing about comparing like what could happen in this expansion draft versus what happened in the last one. If you're trying to make that Fleury move, like Carey Price is the guy. He's the goalie
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
available, and it
Right.
would make perfect sense.
Right.
And really think about the Vegas expansion draft too. Who was their really big name besides Fleury? Like, who did they get?
Well, Vegas
At the
was
time, nobody.
Right.
Yeah.
At the
But
time,
Vegas-
nobody. They had a bunch of misfits, really.
Yeah,
But
Vegas
they-
is super smart.
I still think that the expectation on Seattle is similar to Vegas because I think it's different too because something that
They're so
we're
close. They're so close in years.
no, but because of the expansion draft opportunity. I mean, if they're going to build a team following Vegas's model, then the expectation's probably similar.
Or do you
But-
think teams learned from the last one?
They probably
may-
did.
Maybe not as many teams are going to get fleeced.
They probably did. I'm sure that it's not going to be nearly as bad overall for all the teams in the league this time around. But the other thing that's important to remember here too is that this is a brand new organization with no history whatsoever. So they are going to set the culture right out of the gate. And I think that that's what Vegas actually did right. Is they set their culture of it doesn't matter if we have superstars. We're going to beat you with 4 lines. We're going to beat you with 6D guys. We're going to run all of our guys balls to the wall, and we're not going to be losers out of the gate. We're going to win because there's no reason we can't. And they proved that that's a possibility. So
Only
I
if your
think that that's-
roster. Nah, it's only if your roster's constructed in a way that you can roll 4 lines like they're all second lines. That
maybe
They were-
that's what I
they-
mean. The Vegas model is
those guys were super, super smart and dialed in from a scouting perspective in who they had to go get and who was sort of underutilized on different teams, who had favorable contracts based on their projected potential or whatever. Like they were so dialed in for that expansion. So
right.
like it maybe Ron Francis and his staff are there too, who knows. But the thing that leads me to believe that they're not quite as good at that kind of stuff is the ownership has been very, very vocal about particular names, including Carey Price, saying they came out first and said, we've given the green light to Hockey Ops to make that pick. We will spend that $10 million a year on that player. And if the ownership group is coming out and saying that ahead of anything that the Hockey Ops team would say, which they're not going to say anything and they shouldn't, like that leads me to believe that there's some other stuff going on and maybe they're not going to be at the level that Vegas was, but they're still going to get some really good players here that are available. I mean, they could potentially go get like Yanni Gord, Vladdy Tarasenko, and Jonathan Drouin as their first line. Like that's not bad.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's pretty damn good, right? Like, so
And if they wheel and deal, they could possibly get an Eichel too. Like
absolutely, absolutely. They
Well,
could make some of
they've
those
got a lot of
picks.
opportunity.
They could make some of
And-
those picks and turn it right around and go get him, right? Like from
Yeah.
Buffalo. So
One I was seeing was Eberle. Eberle could go.
mhm.
and
He's a pretty good
Beauvillier.
player.
And
Yeah.
Beauvillier. They're both
and
unprotected.
Josh
Oh.
Bailey. And
Mhm.
Josh
Oh.
Bailey.
And Josh Bailey.
Yeah.
So that's 3
Right.
great players from the Islanders that you can go get. I mean, looking at,
Yeah.
so I felt so bad saying this, but I'm going to. Outside of like Buffalo's unprotected list, and like I would say maybe Ottawa, everybody else for them, and I think the Rangers was kind of light. Outside of those 3 teams, there was a player on each of the expansion draft roster. Now, obviously, you got to do a little salary cap juggling and make sure the contracts work. There was a player on every team where I'm like, he's a good piece. He's a good piece. He's a good piece. And even some of like the lower guys, like we were talking about with the Caps today, like Jensen. Like we're like, Jensen's a really good piece. No one talks about him. So the only thing that I think Vegas had as an advantage was they had a full normal pre-COVID life to scout. That was AHL, Europe, professional. This year with COVID, it was very difficult, especially the kids in the draft, which I won't go into that rabbit hole because there were a lot of kids that were playing OHL that went over to Sweden or Europe to play in, first and second tier leagues where I wouldn't say the numbers don't translate, but it's a weird year for them. Like it doesn't,
Yeah, true.
I wouldn't say it all translates. Like outside of the NCAA kids, which Eric and I were talking about this like on our group there a while ago. Don't be shocked if a record number of NCAA kids go in the first and second round. Like it's going to happen. Like Owen Powers, number 1.
Because they
for
got
Team
to see
Canada.
him. Yeah.
They got to see
Yeah,
him, and I
yeah.
guarantee more people more organizations are probably going to place more emphasis on some of the international events like the World Junior Championship than normal. In past years, it could elevate you. It doesn't knock you down a peg or two. I think more people are going to emphasize that because the nice thing about it was the best of the best minus Owen Power, because he stayed in Michigan. But yeah, we'll kind of see. So I'm sure, the scouts for Seattle did their homework and did the best they can, but it's different when you can physically go into every rink and talk to scouts and other, team management that in a normal year you could. This is a little different. So
The other thing too that we're seeing a lot of, it seems like, is teams kind of gaming the not really gaming, but utilizing the hey, we're just gonna let our guy be a free agent for a few days and then have him actually sign his contract, after the expansion draft or whatever. But there's guys that are UFAs right now that are a really big deal. Ovechkin, obviously, but he's a lock. He's staying in Washington. Everybody knows
He's not
staying
going
in
anywhere.
But Taylor Hall's a UFA. And I mean, he just had a 1-year bridge deal with Boston. If he wants to go to Seattle, I bet you they'd find a way to get him. I mean,
Yeah.
he's a talent. He'd obviously be a big boon to their org, but he's going to need a lot of money, and I mean they're going to run out of cap space really quick if they get guys like him.
The
A bunch
talk
of guys like him, but
the talk around Taylor Hall though has been real positive. Like he's actually said, like, yeah, I'm looking for term, which all of them are looking for term. And
Sure.
it was a really good situation in Boston. So everything is positive. Like he wants to stay there. They're going to figure out a
Right.
way to make that happen.
and like I said, it could be a situation where they're just sitting on his contract for a couple of weeks to be
So-
sure that they don't have to worry about him going to the expansion draft.
The one that's gotten
protect.
really interesting the last like week or so, maybe less than a week, is Landeskog. Like
Right.
they're saying like he's pissed off that they didn't have something done earlier. Now there's word that he's actually looking at the market and seeing what he can get, and
Ooh.
so that would be a big deal. I don't think Seattle will be able to get that done. Even if they picked him, I don't think they can get that done because I think he's in a like win now point in his career.
Right.
I think like Toronto would be a good place for a year or two to kind of get through that and
jeez.
have a shot. I don't know
Wow.
how that deal would be structured, but I think that could happen. Like, so that's kind of interesting how that's going down.
What would his contract be?
Well, that's the thing, right?
Like,
How
what
would you
kind of?
how would you do
Yeah.
that? I mean, if he's going there, it's probably like what, like 2-3 years, some sort of
Max.
progressive
Yeah.
thing, right? And then, you do the average over the 3, but then is he going there knowing that they got a shot to win, right? And that's kind of the way
Right.
I look at it is, with Colorado, yeah, they're favorites again this going into this next season already,
100%.
right? So he's definitely in that win now mindset, but he feels like he's been kind of yanked around a little bit here into free agency and the expansion draft. So I don't know, man.
Well, and it's gonna be like super interesting, especially with that Colorado situation, because like Vegas and Colorado aren't like you haven't seen anything talking about. I know you and I like go back and forth in a funny way, like because we both like both franchises, but we see it different ways in terms of who we favor. No one's talking about Minnesota. Minnesota's gonna have Marco Rossi, and they just dumped a ton of salary cap. Now, granted, I think they saved like 4-6 million this year. They pay for it. They pay for it next year a little bit, but I highly doubt Billy Guerin would just buy 2 contracts like that out unless he went to the owner and said, "I have a plan to do this.
Right.
This is why
Right.
we need to." I don't think he went to him and said, "Hey, I'm totally under cap constraint with these 2 guys. I can't make anything work," because the owner was the one who signed off on those deals. So I think the only reason why Billy G went to the owner was because Billy has a plan of some sort. Now, I'm not saying Gabriel Landeskog. Marco Rossi comes into the fold. Kirill's another year older. Outside of like a few guys in the expansion draft, like Saucy and a few of the other guys, like they're going to be fine. I mean, they do have some good pieces, but like everyone on Minnesota, they're kind of protecting. And Minnesota's like this wild card where I don't know what they're going to do. And like Colorado and Vegas both had issues with that team. And I don't see another Western team that's going to come up and go, "Oh, we're going to overtake those 3." Especially like Minnesota took Vegas to game 7. Colorado had problems with them in the regular season too. Like you can't tell me that either of those 2 teams, after seeing those moves, are thinking in their mind like, "Oh, if we got to play them in round 1, 2, or 3, we can handle it." Like I think there's a little bit of fear in both those organizations. And I think Vegas has a goaltending issue they got to figure out. Colorado has some cap issues they're finally going to deal with, unfortunately. Like Lando's going to be a problem. Makar, unfortunately, he's going to be a problem. And McKinnon, like he should be making McDavid and Matthews money. Sorry, he should. Like he's that good. At the end of the day, does he
Thick
sign
boy
like
money.
Yeah, thick boy money. That's right, dog. Yeah. But like, does he really want that, knowing full well it may hinder him because Makar's there? And then do you think maybe him and Landeskog are probably talking a little bit? I don't know. Landeskog,
I
I
don't
saw
know.
has like a
Nate
really
Dogg's
good
coming to
friendship.
Pittsburgh with Sid.
Yeah, Nate Dogg's going to Pittsburgh. That's right.
Right.
They were golfing together. I already called it. They're best buddies.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
best friends. They're best friends. But it's like, so those are the 3 guys in the East where I look at those teams and I'm like, these are the 3 contenders. Outside, like Boston, even if they got Taylor Hall, Tuukka Rask and Halak are both in the expansion draft. So they must think Sweeman's our guy. Okay, sure, whatever. Islanders, they did clear a bunch of cap space because of the Ladd deal, which also, how does the NHL call that not cap circumvention? What Lou Lamoriello did, but they already said like if Montreal lets Carey Price go, Seattle picks him up, retains some of the salary, and then trades him back. That's cap circumvention. They're saying that's cap circumvention, but like Lou Lamoriello
for
can trade like
Montreal.
$7 million off. Well, maybe Seattle just wants to like retain a little salary so they can hit that cap floor. And Montreal just came with the best deal possible. I don't know. Just saying. Yeah, that's some wizard stuff. But But who in the East really like makes you go outside of like Toronto, where you're like Toronto has a lot of the pieces to make a cup run. Who else in the East really makes you go, oh wow? Like no one that I can think of, at least.
The only thing I would say is like
I mean,
as much as we don't want to say it, like the Islanders are close, even though they're terrible to watch.
yeah,
Right.
Yeah, I was about to say the Isles, but then I thought, but no, they kind of suck
Right.
though.
You
Right,
wanted to
but
tell
they-
them, but
But they
no.
don't
Yeah.
at the same time.
Like but they're close. You know.
yeah,
So
they are.
Ugh.
yeah.
I don't want to see them go to the cup
I'm not-
finals.
right. But
I don't want to watch them.
Yeah.
Tampa's close.
well, they're
Tampa's
always
a little
yeah.
close. Yeah.
Well, after
Well, if they're under the cap, right?
well,
Aw.
and
Oh,
well, they're going to lose a lot of guys. So that team is not going to even look
Yeah.
close to the same as it did 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, we didn't get to talk about it too, but and I'm not sure people are really noticed this or what, but throwback to after the cup in 2015 when the Blackhawks won.
Oh, yeah.
They were renegotiating the CBA, and
yeah, they did the exact same thing.
one team in the entire league said, "Hey, maybe we should close this loophole that the Blackhawks just used to get over the cap for the playoffs." And the other 30 teams in the league were like, "Nah, fuck it, no big deal."
Yep.
That team that said we should close the loophole was the Tampa Bay Lightning. They said,
Yep.
"Let's fix this." Nobody did. Nobody got on board, and then they used it and they won, and now everybody's bitching.
Yep.
Fuck them.
That's-
You know
Yeah,
what Tampa?
that's-
You know what Tampa said? Tampa said, "Fuck it."
They said, "Fuck it, we're going. We're gonna
Yep.
do it live,"
that's
and they did.
that's what I like to call hockey karma.
Hockey karma, yes, sir.
That's the way it works.
Absolutely.
That's the way it works.
I don't think enough people have heard that story yet. Even a few weeks, 2 weeks past.
The Kane loophole.
Well, the one thing no one's really said anything, and I kind of chuckle about it, like the whole long-term injured reserve thing. There's a lot of talk that like Shea Weber is going to go on long-term IR because his body just can't handle it, and he's a Warrior, and he's had a really good NHL career. Considering he played in Nashville for almost the entire thing, he's a pretty damn good player. Like we can't argue that.
Yeah,
He's
think
great.
of all the shots he had to block.
Yeah. How many shots did he bomb at people? That's the other thing too. I want to see. I remember Aaron and I looked it up at one point. I forget. It's so aggravating.
Oh, the
He's
cap
not going to
recapture thing?
retire. What? It was something stupid that Nashville would have to pay in cap retention. Like it
Uh-huh.
was over $10 million in cap retention. So
per
if he-
year.
per year. And Shea Weber's deal
Just
against the cap
burned cap.
is 7.8. So if he really does go on long-term IR, and it sounds like he's not even going to be ready this upcoming year. Like even if they stretch into another deep cup run with the wrist, the shoulder, and the foot, if Montreal gets another 7.8, what are they going to do with that money? And they're going to save money on Carey Price's deal. Like what are they going to do with that? What could they possibly do with that money?
Landeskog.
Orlando. Yeah. Yeah, Shea Weber has another
5
years.
years on his deal.
four.
Oh,
Four,
Oh yeah,
right.
5. Yeah, because we're now in
It's
21,
5 if you include
22.
next.
It's 5. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
5. Wow. Oh,
He's 35 years old.
Yep.
He currently makes up 9.6% of Montreal's entire cap.
Whoa.
One dude, one 35-year-old
Whoa.
who is signed until he's 40 at 7.8.
Well, keep in
Oof.
mind
Oof.
keep in mind 2012, 2014, 2015, and
Mm-mm.
2016. He had a $13 million signing bonus that was owed to him because of contract. 13 million cool ones. Because Carey Price has like, I think August 1st he gets like $10 million with his signing bonus. So, yeesh. Ugh. I know this is very
$11 million.
dense. Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. I know this is
Anyways.
very dense. So I won't bore
It is kind
anybody.
of fun to look at some of these numbers, but yeah, we probably should move on.
Hey, Riggs, let's talk about people blaming equipment. That's my favorite.
Oh,
That's
Lord.
my favy.
Hold on.
Need another beer for this one.
Ah, yes.
Nectar.
So, equipment. I take it you two have stories?
I don't
Oh
know
yeah.
if I have a story, but I think John has a little rant. We can kick this off.
Let's go, John. Let's
All right.
hear it.
Yeah.
The
I
airing
was
of grievances has
I
commenced.
was so excited. The senator from Maryland is taking the podium. No, so I thought it was kind of funny because you always hear these rumors of NHL players so finicky about their sticks and stuff. You know, they'll look at it and they're like, "These are trash," and then they send them back, even though you can't notice any detail or anything. Like, I just think it's funny, and I've never heard, at least in my lifetime, a professional hockey player that is say at any point, "Oh, I missed a net because of the stick," or like, "Oh, I can't skate fast enough because of the skates," or a goalie like, "Oh, well, my glove, yeah, it doesn't catch pucks," blah blah blah.
It's not wide enough.
Yeah, it's not wide enough. Well, maybe after the rule changes, they said that, like the Garth Snow shoulder pads or the chest protector he wore. But over the weekend, my best friend Bryson DeChambeau said his driver sucks because he couldn't hit the face with it, and that's the reason he was floundering at the Open.
Fuck him.
Yeah, exactly. So he said point blank, "Oh, the driver sucks," blah blah blah, and it started all this nonsense with Cobra, his golf manufacturer, which is even better because Brooks Koepka, who kind of needles at Bryson, the next day after I think Brooks finished in the top 20, so another major where he does really well. But he just point out and said, "Oh, I drove the ball really good today. I love my driver," just to kind of needle it like a little more. Like it made me so happy. So I mentioned, I'm like, "Oh, blaming equipment." So I remember we would play with people in our beer league, and they would get a pass or miss the net a mile and a half, and every time they got back to the bench or after the game, complain that, "Oh, it's a new stick. I just got it, yada yada." And you just kind of look at them and you kind of just go, "Oh yeah." You just kind of nod, and then you go back to what you were doing because it's such a preposterous statement. Like, it's just me that thinks that. Like, what are you talking about? Like, right? Like,
I got one for this actually.
Oh no.
Oh no, Aaron.
So Daniel goes through a lot of sticks. He buys a bunch of sticks. But he'll buy a stick and then he'll decide he doesn't like it because he sees another one he likes and gets that one and wants that one.
Well, that other one's not doing what it's supposed to do. So
Yeah.
Well, not even for that. I wasn't about to just like point at Daniel and be like, he's the one who does that. Or whatever.
Fuck, Aaron.
Not directly, yeah.
But
I'm an adult.
Anyway.
I spend my money the way I want.
exactly, yeah. I have disposable income. I buy sticks. Yeah, it's fine.
So
anyway,
Daniel DeChambeau. Okay.
he buys this Sherwood stick and he's telling me on the ice when we're warming up, he's like, "Man, this thing is like really whippy. It's like not the
Too
right
light.
flex that I really like.
It's too
It's
light.
super light."
Yeah.
So he's a shooter. Like, it actually for Daniel it probably matters the
all I
flex
can
and all
do.
that shit. That's all he does is shoot. So I'm the kind of guy that I can buy a stick and keep it for 5 years because I don't break sticks. I'm probably going to break a stick this next game that I play now that I've seen it. But for the most part, I almost never break sticks. So I just kind of take Daniel's hand downs. He's like, "Okay, I'm getting rid of the stick. Aaron, you want to buy it?" "Yeah,
$40.
sure. Why not? I'll upgrade for $40.
Hmm.
So anyway, he lets me try this stick and warm up. And I'm like, "Yeah, it's pretty light. It's definitely different than what I'm used to." And I said, "Let me try it the first shift of the game or whatever. And if I like it, I'll buy it from you." So first shift of the game, I don't know how it happened or whatever. I'm going to the net. pass comes across. It's perfect. It's right in the wheelhouse. It's one that I feel like I should bury every single time. Goes under my blade. And I'm like thinking, man, it's the stick. The stick, it's too light. It's different. I don't like how light it is. It's not good. So I went back to the bench and I told the I was like, no deal. I'm not buying it. It's too light. So fast forward, I don't know.
I should have had
maybe
him
a
pay
week or
me
three.
first.
Yeah, you should have. Fast forward a few weeks, and I decide, you know what? I need another stick so that I can keep it at the house, so I can keep it in the basement and shoot around with my net in the basement or whatever. So I say, okay, I'll buy that stick from you, and I'll put it in the house or whatever. So I'm messing around with it at the house. Yeah, the stick is kind of feeling better, and then it turns out start bringing it with me to games and start using it, and I really like this stick, and I'm scoring just fine with it. When just fine, quote unquote, just fine for me. But it's my primary stick now. The stick that I hated because it was too light and I couldn't use it. It's the stick I use all the time. So yeah, the gear doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter.
So,
You just had to use it more.
yeah. So what you're saying is you got some practice with it, and then you can use the stick. Okay. Cool.
It's almost as if my skill level wasn't high enough in order to really make that determination that the stick wasn't good. Almost like that.
See, I remember years and years ago, and this is when my brother and I who played were younger, and him and I had to have 2-piece sticks because it was the thing. It was the shit. And I remember he had
Easton Ultralights.
He was bigger. Well, Neil, my younger brother, was bigger on the Easton stuff. I like the TPS rubber and Tricor. Like there's some, I don't know why. It just felt better in my Yeah, see, you like scoff. Like you have no style. Like, come on, like stop.
Brutal.
So I would use those, and my brother and I, who's a little younger, would harass my father because he still would use wood sticks, and we're like, "What are you like, 1940s hockey player?" Blah blah blah. Well, we would go to like stick and pucks, or when it was light on pickup, he would take us and stuff, and my dad would still like score and stuff, and we're like, "What the heck is going on? Like I'm shooting from the same distance, and you're putting it by." And then I remember he said something. He goes, the stick doesn't matter if you don't know how to use it. So like he would kind of harass us, like, and that's like kind of when it kicked in. And this is a young age where I'm like, oh, maybe it's not all the stick. And then of course, like 2 weeks later, I'm like, hey, I need the new TPS rubber shaft. It just came out. It's yellow. It's not black. I need that one. Like it's better. Like, and then when the one piece came out and all that stuff. So yeah, but
there's probably only one piece of gear. Like, there's probably only one piece of gear that a hockey player really should spend money on, and it make a serious difference, and that's skates. If you buy crappy skates, you're going to have a bad time. If you buy good skates...
It is true.
Hockey players need good skates. Yeah. I will say that you can see a major difference based on how much you spend on your skates.
I actually went through this not too long ago, because I actually had a pair of Vapor 2Xs. I used them for about a year and a half. I used them a lot. I was like 3 times a week. And this was probably a couple months ago, maybe 3 months ago. And I noticed I wasn't playing as well, and my legs would tire out really quickly. And then after the games, my legs would be sore, and like the next day it would be like super sore. So I was like, it can't be the skates, can't be the skate. I kept trying different stuff. I got some 2X Pros, and it was like the stiffer boot, brand new. My legs were not sore after the game.
Huh.
Yeah.
So switching skates, spending more money on my skates, getting a stiffer skate actually helped me out.
Well, they break down too. I mean, when they break down, then you're starting to use some extra muscles to maintain your stability.
I mean, they still look good though, which was very surprising to me. And I mean, I guess it just wasn't as stiff as what I was used to as when I first bought them.
I had a similar experience myself when I had to have the skates that I have now. I had to have a couple rivets put in them or whatever. So went back to the pair of skates that I had before that, which I'd used those for like 7 or 8 years. And when I upgraded from them, I was like, these skates are still fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with them.
Were those
But
the
when I went
Reeboks?
back to when I went back to the
Yeah.
9Ks,
Oh.
oh my gosh, I skated in them in a pickup, and I couldn't stand up. Like I felt like I was wearing the like cardboard rental skates or whatever that had no ankle support. Like it felt like they had completely broken down. Like I wouldn't have noticed had I not gotten skates that were stiff again. But yeah, they absolutely break down and they do malfunction to the point where it affects you a lot. And you don't even notice it. So skates are the exception, I think. But still, if you have a brand new pair of skates and you fall, yeah, it's still on you. I mean,
Yeah. Well,
You still gotta
everybody
know how to
falls.
skate in 'em.
Everybody falls at one point.
Oh, I got another story actually. This is a Daniel story. This was back when he and
Oh,
I
man.
worked. This is a good one. It's a good
Oh,
one.
okay, it's a good one. All right.
He and I worked at our local ice rink, and we were messing around on the ice one time, and one of the other guys that worked at the rink came out and challenged us to a game of posts, and offered to put some money down on it, and we just said it. All Daniel does is shoot. That's all he's ever done in this game is practice his shot. So wouldn't you know it, Daniel wins the first game.
Good at
I'm
hitting
nowhere
posts.
close. Yeah, he's good at hitting posts. The other guy who works the rink didn't win. He was a little sore about it. He said, "Well, let's do double or nothing." And then Daniel won again. And then as the other rink employee was leaving the ice, he was so pissed that his stick was the problem. He slams it over the boards and breaks it. So not only was he out the $40 that he owed Daniel, he also was out the stick. So it was not a good day for him financially.
Well, he wasn't out the $40 because he never paid me.
He never paid
Yeah.
anyway.
So two things you can learn from this. Number one, don't be some animal slamming your stick everywhere, regardless. Whether you miss the net, etc., lose to Daniel in a game of pipes, whatever. Two, this isn't the movie Rounders. If you are down double or nothing, strong chance you're not going to flop the nuts. You will lose. You are not going to win.
All right, everyone, that does it for this week. As always, don't forget, if you want to learn more about us or get in touch with us, head over to beersinthelot.com. And finally, it's broken record time. Head to beersinthelot.com/Discord to join our Discord server. We're always in there posting funny stuff and interacting with some of our bigger fans. So if you want to be a bigger fan, head over to beersinthelot.com/Discord. Until then, we'll catch you next week.